of specific teaching learning materials, which includes the in-house training program as per the direction of CBSE. So before starting the session, I would like to thank you for choosing me as the resource person to conduct this session. So let us begin today's session. So currently, teachers, we all know that we are going through a very hard situation. We are experiencing massive changes in the education system. And basically, these all are going on because we are experiencing COVID pandemic, which is forcing all the schools to remain closed, as well as it is also beneficial for us to breaking the chain of the COVID. But as a result, we as a teacher and also the students as well are going through a different type of teaching learning process, which we call as blended teaching learning process. So what is blended teaching learning process? It is also known as hybrid learning process, which is basically the amalgamation of the online teaching process and the traditional way of classroom teaching method. So basically, as a result, the teachers, besides being subject expert, we also have to be highly efficient in technology to conduct our classes in the online mode and also meet all the objectives of learning as well. So on this basis, we are going through numbers of training programs which are helping us to improve our teaching learning techniques to cope up with the current situation. So today's topic is selection of specific teaching learning process. Before entering into the proper slides of teaching learning materials, let us concentrate on what is teaching. So teachers, can you tell what are the words coming in your mind when we hear the word teaching? Please tell me.
It means a connection between the book and
Imparting information to the students.
Yes, very good. So it is an art of awakening the natural curiosity of young minds for purpose of satisfying it afterwards.
Yes.
Teaching establishes a relationship. Basically, teaching engages the three most important impacts of education. That is, the first one is the teachers, the second one is the learners, and of course, the subject matter. Teaching is not only telling and testing. It is complex art of guiding students through a variety of selected experiences towards the attainment of appropriate teaching learning goals. There is a very beautiful quotation of H.C. Morrison that teaching is an intimate contact between a more matured person and a less matured one, which is designed to further the education of the latter. So let us look into what are the basic goals of teaching. So basically, the principles of teaching are emphasizing on the learners, guiding the learners, and promoting the development of the learners. Basically, we can say teaching is nothing. We cannot do teaching without our students, without the learning process. The teaching learning process is intertwined very closely. Now let's move to the word learning. So teachers, please tell me, what do we mean by learning? Again, I'm asking you, what are the words coming in your mind when we hear the word learning? Yes, anyone?
Bringing change in behavior of the learners.
Yes, sir?
Bringing change
Anyone?
in behavior of the learners.
Ma'am, it's a holistic development. Holistic development, man. Learning means holistic development.
Change in behavior.
Can you please enable the The chat box is enabled?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. Yes, of course. So basically, learning is the process by which behavior is organized or changed through the practice and training. Slides. So learning has also many goals. First of all, learning is goal oriented and it is an active process. The person who is engaged in learning, he always does the work. And learning is an individualized process. Learning is the outcome of interaction of any individual with the total situation. So it doesn't mean that learning should be always accomplished with a person to person. It can also be gained by a certain situation. Suppose one day we are having a very bad day. We have experienced different type of hurdles in the entire day, and at night we are thinking that, oh shit, we are having a really bad day. But here we are also learning in these situations. We are learning to handle the stress. How to handle the stress while we are having a hard time. This is also a way of learning. So finally, let us move to our slides. So today's session is teaching learning materials. So what is teaching learning materials? These are the means or the aids which helps the teaching learning process moves smoothly and interestingly. So I have subdivided the topic of teaching learning material into 8 subtopics. The first one is identifying the need for developing TLM, identifying various types of TLM, identifying resources required for making TLM. The fourth one is identifying of relevant target groups to make the resources required for the TLM. We will discuss it later in the The next 4 objectives are planning and developing of TLM. Next is pre-testing of TLM. We have to pre-test the TLM before using it, whether it has achieved all the objectives or not. We have to see it properly, and then only we can use it in the classroom. The next is evaluating and revision of the TLM. And last but not the least is care of TLM in the CLC. CLC is the Community Learning Center. It can be any educational institute or local group of students where basically the teaching learning process is going on. Now, here this slide represents a Venn diagram of various types of teaching learning materials. So first and foremost thing is we always have to remember that whenever the teaching learning materials or TLM comes into our mind, it is not only concerned with the teachers, but it is also equally concerned with the students as well. There are various types of teaching aids which are used by the teachers and the students as well. So here in this Venn diagram, one vein is basically, I have written all the TLMs which are used by the teachers. For example, the pictures, posters, charts, objects, films, videos, PPTs, print material, models, and ICT. ICT is Information and Communication Technology. And the different types of TLMs which are used by the students are worksheets, activity sheets, supplementary materials, reference materials, self-study units, games, classroom display. And there are also some common type of teaching aids which are used by both of us, the teachers as well as the students. For example, the textbooks, the word books, labs, library, CDs, community resources. So there is a beautiful quotation by Clay P. Bedford. You can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you can teach him to learn by creating curiosity, He will continue the learning process as long as he lives. Basically, we should not go to the classroom and only deliver our lessons. We should always leave a question to the students. The students will basically go and search for the question. And if this curiosity occurs in the mind of the students, the teaching learning process will continue as well. It will also develop the concepts and interest for the subject. Now let us move to the proper definition of TLM. So teaching learning materials are the aids used by the facilitators to help him or her in facilitating his or her lesson effectively. Now teachers are also known as facilitators because they basically facilitates the teaching learning process of the students. Teaching materials are the aids used by the learners to help him or her learn effectively. These basically creates interest among the learners. Both teaching learning materials can be big or small. The TLMs can be as small as a magnet, or it can be as bigger as different types of models which can be kept in a corner of our classroom. And of course, the teaching learning materials can be bought or made easily by both the facilitators and the learners. Doesn't mean that always the teachers have to take the responsibility. The learners can equally be engaged in in making of various types of teaching learning materials. And obviously, the TLMs which are made by the teachers and the learners together, it will be more effective. While building the TLMs also, it will clear out, it will gather more information among them. Now, let's move to the purpose and importance of TLM. What are the basic purpose and importance of TLM, of using a TLM in the classroom? The first and foremost is, as the picture goes, that it makes the lesson interesting and easy to understand. We will learn in the further slides that basically what is the work of the TLM? TLM basically engages more and more sensory organs in the teaching learning process. Generally, in a teaching process, it comprises of only the hearing process. But if a TLM is being projected to the students, then here the visionary sensory organs are also engaged. It will increase the teaching learning process. It will increase the retention of the chapters for longer period of time. A more purpose and importance, it helps the facilitators to deliver his or her lessons successfully. It also chalks out and keeps in mind, it helps the facilitators or the teachers that what are the points to be explained in the class. It happens sometimes if there is no TLM or any lesson plan, then it may be possible that we may omit 1 or 2 points, which is important for the lesson. But TLMs helps us to keep in mind all the points and deliver it accordingly. TLMs are things and ideas which are usually familiar to the learners. Obviously, we all know the theory of Piaget's theory, that learners basically, they receive packs of schemas. So here TLMs are nothing but they should make a bridge between the previous schemas and the further schemas. That means the TLMs should work as a catalyst in the teaching learning process for the holistic development of the students. Enable the facilitator to express intended concepts of learning effectively. So intended concepts, what are the concepts within the chapters? It will also help the students if those are too difficult. The TLMs will make it more easier and it will help the students to learn it easily. For example, using of various types of mnemonics, using of various types of models. We will learn TLMs can be found locally and are therefore cheap. It doesn't mean that the TLM should always have to be bought from a very with high cost. It can be easily obtained locally, and therefore the locally available resources should also be cheap, so that it will be easier for both the teacher, easy to carry. It should be portable, so that the teachers can easily carry it to the classroom and show it to the students. If the students come forward, they are more interested to it. It should also be easily handleable, so that the students as well can handle the TLMs. And it enables everyone in the CLC to participate actively. Obviously, when any teacher comes to the class and only gives demonstration process or lecture method, sometimes the class becomes boring. But if in that place the TLMs are introduced into them, all the students sitting in the last bench will also pay attention to the TLMs. They will see, try to read that what is written in here, what different thing has the teacher taken into the class. The TLMs help the learners to relate what is being taught to the real life situation. Yes, the TLMs basically makes a bridge between the real life situation and the things, the hardcore facts, the soft core facts of the chapters. Now coming to the importance of TLM. So what is the importance of TLM? For that we have in this slide, it has been a study has been made by Yale's University, so which depicts that teaching the most consistent version of percentage of content retained by reading, hearing, speaking, seeing and doing things. That how much percentage of a lesson can be retained by the learners by only reading? It is only 10%. If a normal piece, a fresh piece is given to a student by reading for one time, the student will be able to retain only 10% of it. But if he hears what has been taught by the teachers, 20% he can retain. But seeing relevant TLMs related to it, it will increase into 30%. And if the student is also able to hear and see relevant TLMs and also hear the demonstration of the teacher or some relevant to it, it will increase the teaching learning process near about 50%. And if the students are brought in front and they are given the chance to speak something about or to demonstrate the prepared TLMs, what they have prepared, then it will increase up to 70%. And yes, if we give them to do some to make their own TLMs, then it will increase near about 90%. Now we have subdivided the TLMs into three broad ways. The first part is projected ones, the TLMs which can be projected on a screen. For example, the LEDs, projectors, OHP seats, and movies. The non-projected sheets which cannot be projected on a screen. For example, charts, maps, boards, chalk duster, books, these all comes, the traditional TLMs, these all comes under the non-projected ones. And the last one is experiential. Yes, this is also included in the TLM. This includes fair, educational workshops, exhibition, tours, etc. But now in the COVID situation, this type of TLM is making the students experience this type of TLM has become too much hard. We are looking into near future so that we can also give the students this type of opportunities. Now, types of TLM. Again, we have divided the TLMs according to the various types of sensory organs used by using the TLM. such as visual aids, which engages eyes of the learners, audio, which engages the hearing of the learners, audio visual aids, which engages both the visionary as well as the hearing sensory organs. Real objects. I will come to this point, real objects, in the next slide. And ultimately, ICT. The thing which I had started with this presentation, that is blended teaching learning system. In a blended teaching learning system, when the teachers are conducting their classes in online mode, the ICT is becoming more and more relevant. We are giving PPTs, we are augmented realities, various types of apps we are presenting to the students. What are augmented realities? Basically, those are some apps where we are able to create animated pictures and show the students. Suppose a chapter in science, various types of animals and their adaptation procedure in different habitats. So we will be able to design animated pictures of the camel and show the students that how the camel adapts in a desert-like situation. There are various other types. It can become a complete presentation. So it will not end if we start telling about ICT. So now we are coming to different types of TLMs. I have tried to show you different types of TLMs which may be used, or which may also give you some ideas while preparing your own TLMs. So the first one here, we can see a balloon. It is a really cost effective, and it can also be done by the students as project. So the SST teachers can use this as a proper TLM, where the balloon husk is divided into two halves, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. All the continents has been cut out from the pages and they are pasted on the top of it. So by doing this TLM in hand activity, the students will not only gain the information, they will not only get to know that which continent is situated in which hemisphere of the earth, they will also equally be aware of the shapes of the continent, about the outlines of the continent. The next is related to mathematics. Basically, it will give the students idea about various types of quantities. We all use different types of soft drinks, and we get various sized plastic bottles. We can collect it and show the students and give them the idea of different types of quantities. Next one is related to life science. So here in the first one, it is the TLM of the human tongue, and where the various types of test buds are present. The frontal part is responsible for tasting sweetness. Most proximal part is responsible for, the sides of the tongue are responsible for tasting sourness and saltiness. And here in the right side, it has been beautifully depicted a human respiratory system with proper leveling. This one is a picture of a windmill. So in class 6, we generally learn air around us. There is a chapter in science, air around us, and there are various types of activities related to that chapter. And at the last, there were windmills. So we can make the students, we can show them how does the windmill looks like, and also we can give them projects on it. The next one is, it is showing the consume the insects, and the tertiary is the eagle, which is eating up the rat. This type of TLMs are basically for physics. Here the first one depicts the reflection of light. So here we have placed a plate mirror and we have drawn a line, which is the incident line. And through the plane mirror, we have increased the reflected line and we have got the reflected line as well. And from that, we have drawn the angle of incidence and angle of reflection. And this one in the right portion, electric circuit post, I had given them project and they all have done it. Now, last but not the least, we have already started, we are aware of the blended education system, that whenever we are taking classes from the online mode and we are not having sufficient amount of time to prepare our own TLM, what the least thing we can do is look around and pick up your own TLM. There are large amount of things around our houses which can be used as a TLM. And it can also be beautifully demonstrated to the students, and the students can also get engaged with the objects which are placed around them. So here is a YouTube link. I'm trying to play it. You will also get different types of more ideas about what the different types of TLMs. Sir, please. Copy. Okay, here it has been opened. Is the screen visible?
Yes, yes.
That one is the binary fission of amoeba. So it is a long video. You can also watch it from YouTube directly. So now let us move to the next part of our slide. So now we will basically discuss about what are the strategies which can be taken to build up a TLM. So what do we mean by strategy? Can anybody tell? What do we mean by strategy? What is strategy? Anyone?
Plannings.
बड़ी मार मारेगा लोग रिलीवर नहीं दीजिएगा
What, sir? Yes, sir. What is strategy? I didn't get your words. Okay. I think there must be some technical issue. The voice is breaking. So I'm telling you, the strategy is the most efficient way of doing something. And it is the most interesting way of doing something. So And it should always be the best method if compared to the other alternative methods. Now, the strategies can be developed and improved upon after close interaction with the learners. First of all, we have to take the feedback of the learners. What are the requirements? What is the IQ level of the learners? Only after that, after getting the proper feedback of the learners, only we can design our own TLMs and work exactly what are the requirements of the TLMs required. Some more strategies. The teaching becomes interesting when the teaching learning material is reasonably sized. It should be reasonably sized. That means it should match the tenure of the lesson, tenure of the class. We all know that we are getting here about 40 to 35 minutes per class. So it should match according to the proper, it should match according to the proper timing and also the portion what we are teaching in that particular class and in that particular time. And it should be easily seen. When a teacher is showing a TLM, it should be visible by each and every student sitting at the extreme corner of the classroom. That means the writings, the words written in the TLM, it should be bigger enough in bold words. The pictures should also be very clear with vibrant colors, and also any kind of leveling if exists, it should be also in proper words, in proper bolded words, so that the students does not experience any kind of strain while reading out those TLMs. Next is the learner should also be able to handle the TLMs themselves. It will create more interest among the learners. Next is a variety of wide range of TLM should be there. That means, what do we mean by this? So, we have made a TLM, we cannot use it in each and every class we teach the same topic, because the students are different in each and every section. Maybe in section A, the students are more fast learners. But in section B, there are a large amount of students, those are slow learners. So we have to change our TLMs accordingly. Used by the we are going through inclusive education system, where each and every student are getting the same chance of achieving education in a normal condition. So here, when a visually impaired student is present in the class, we will change the TLM into any kind of audio visual clips or any kind of audio recording, so that it will be easier for him also to experience the class, to find interest in the lectures. And last but not the least, while preparing any kind of TLM, we should always keep in mind that whether it is fulfilling all the lesson objectives. Whenever we walk into a class, first and foremost thing, before into a class, we prepare our lesson plans. And the most important component of the lesson plans is the lesson objectives. So we have to make sure that the TLMs fulfill all the lesson objectives. Next is make full use of the TLM. Sometimes it happens that we are having less amount of time. If you're not able to explain the TLM, then come class next day with the same TLM and explain the whole TLM, so that you can make full utilization of that TLM, which you have made by expending lots of amount of time, money, and effort. Now, adapt TLM to suit the learner's ability background and CLC situation. Yes, it should always suit the learner's ability background. We would not create a TLM for the students who does not have any idea about ICT or technology. We should not make PPTs for them. They will become scared. We have to move into that slowly with small steps. And yes, integrated two or more teaching methods or approaches into the design of a TLM. It is an important topic or important point of NEP 2020. We have to integrate more and more teaching methods into one TLM. We can include art integrated education. The upcoming sessions on art integrated education, we will learn in details in the upcoming sessions on art integrated education. The learner should be able to decide what TLMs to use for which learning strand. Yes, each and every learning strand, the TLM for the language classes is different from the TLMs from the science classes. The mathematics, the TLM of the mathematics classes are also different. So there will be proper differentiation, and the learner should be able to differentiate it as well. And also every learning strand should have relevant TLMs. Next, testing effectiveness and usefulness of TLM. We have to test the TLM whether it is fulfilling all the criteria or not before walking into the class with that TLM. A lesson is more effective to the learners when teaching learning process is done with things which can be seen, heard, or touched. We have discussed this point earlier. A lesson plan delivered without TLM can be boring to the learners, and TLMs make the teaching learning process more enjoyable and memorable. If the students do hand-on activities based on the TLMs, they will enjoy the session. And as far as it is concerned, they will retain the topic, they will enjoy the topic and also retain for longer period of time. Now, identifying the needs for developing new TLMs. So making your own TLM, it does not mean that you always have to depend on organization, well-renowned organization. Well, you have to buy TLMs which are very high cost. You can make your own TLM and it will make you as well as the learners creative. And TLMs should be less costly or cost effective because we have to make lots of TLMs. Earlier we have discussed that it will vary. We have the requirement of TLM varies according to each sections. So we have to make lots of TLMs. That is why it is better to keep it cost effective. Next, to deliver new information as well as to ensure that the TLMs are relevant to the needs of the learners. While researching on how to make a TLM, we will also gather various types of information. It will enrich our knowledge as well as the concept of the students. So this is a beneficial part of making your own TLM. Now, planning TLM helps the users to think about information in a different way. It is a deductive process. How can you think differently? It will be encouraged. In another way, you will become creative. Ensures active participation by the learners. If we only deliver the lectures in a demonstration process or a lecture method, it may happen that near about 32% learners are in a different world. They are thinking about different things. And obviously, their ages are also very young. They can get distracted very easily. So we, the teachers, have to take care, have to take the responsibility to keep their focuses in one point in the education system. And these TLMs really help them for this. Now, identifying various types of TLMs. How can we identify our own visual aids? By providing knowledge. It should be less costly, and it also enriches the concepts while researching. Developing skill in making various types of TLMs reduce the dependency on the others people. It is a beneficiary part. It is a benefit for not depending on any kind of well-renowned organization for buying TLMs. Ability to identify various TLMs makes the facilitators and the learners adapt to any classroom situations. So it will help the students, their acclimatization, increase the acclimatization power of the facilitators as well as the learners to cope up with any kind of situation in any classroom situation. Next is identifying resources required for making TLMs. So identifying local resources to make charts, maps, diagrams, models. We can collect the required raw materials from any local shop, and it will also be very cost effective. Identifying the right user for any TLM, audio recording TLMs for hearing impaired students. We have discussed this point earlier. A specific targeted group should be there, and their involvement in planning a TLM is required. So we can select some of the students in the class, take their feedbacks, know their requirements, that what do they want, up to what portion they are aware of any topic. And then we can proceed further, and we can also engage them as well in planning and also in preparing our TLMs. Planning and developing of TLMs again. So knowing the type of TLM, the users and the length of the lesson and methods used to develop the lesson, to deliver the lesson, it will make easier for you to decide the size and the type of TLM we need to design. These are the basic criteria: the type of the TLM, the users, the learners, what type of learners they are. Are they very fast learners? Are they very slow learners? The length of the lessons, we all know that it is restricted to 45 to 40 minutes. And the methods used to deliver the lessons. What is the method? Is it a flip-flop class? Is it a demonstration method? It is a questioning method, or it is a project method. Now coming to NEP 2020. So NEP 2020, it is a very relevant topic nowadays. So we all know that on July 2020, the Union Cabinet approved a new national education policy after a gap of near 34 years. Previously, the NEP 2020 means the previous educational policy was known as National Policy of Education, which was introduced in 1986 and was further modified on 1992. The main purpose of NPA 1986 was access and equity of education, because at that time education was restricted to only a privileged category of students. Not all the students in the all the small students or children in the country were getting the availability of education, because at that time there were lots of caste and creeds, lots of untouchability problems. So access means availability and equity means fairness. That means each and every student gets same quality of education. But in NEP 2020, it basically focuses on access of quality education. And in August 2021, we all know, it also came in newspaper, that Karnataka is the first state to implement NEP 2020. And we can also expect that all the other states will also implement NEP 2020 in each and every state of India. Let us discuss about a few points on NEP 2020. What are the basic changes that NEP 2020 has done? The first thing is the NEP purpose is to change the school's academic structure from 10+2 level of schooling format to 5+3+3+4 format. And also the undergraduate degree structure is also available for 3 to 4 years but there are multiple entry and exit options. There will be no hard separation of the arts and science between the curriculum and the extracurriculum activities, between the vocational and the academic skills, and the students are encouraged to do skill-based education. Currently, India spends total 3% of its GDP on education sector, as per the 2018 economic survey. But NEP 2020 aims in spending near about 6% of the GDP in education sector. And we always have to remember that NEP 2020 mainly focuses more on the formative assessment over summative assessment system, where the students go through continuous evaluation process. And here, according to the NEP 2020, the teaching learning process becomes more interactive when these five contents are there. 5 criterias are there in the teaching learning process. The first one is content, second one idea, then concepts, application, and problem solving. Next is pre-testing of TLMs. We have to pre-test a TLM. After making a TLM, it is not ready. We have to pre-test it, whether all the objective has been fulfilled by the TLM or not. So assessment of the TLM may be done in brief classroom conference or discussions. Facilitators can also gain confidence in their TLMs, and they should also accept review comments on the colleagues. So basically, we can consult to our subject teachers, the other teachers which are there in the classroom, which are there in the school, show them the TLMs and get reviews on them, that whether it is meeting all the objectives of a certain lesson or not. And then only it is prepared, it is ready to be shown or to be taken into the classroom. Lastly, we have to take care of our TLMs properly. The TLMs which we have already made, we can reuse it for many days, for the upcoming sessions also. For that, we have to take proper care of the TLMs. So how can we take care? By covering the books. It is a common TLM, which is used by both the learners as well as the teachers. By using cupboards, the school has availability of number of cupboards. We can make good use of them. Avoid handling TLMs with dirty hands. Suppose we are having our food, we are having our lunch, and after that we have class. Make sure that you wash your hand, dry your hand, and then touch your TLM so that it remains intact for more number of days. Avoid putting ink in books. Collect storage of TLMs like upright and rollouts. So here, upright and rollouts are basically used for maps, charts. It can be rolled and ultimately put into a proper case. And in this way, it will retain for a longer period of time. Reusing TLMs in multiple classes. Yes, we can use TLMs in multiple classes. Putting plastic cover on the models, the bigger models which we use. We can put plastic and cover it and preserve it for more longer of days. Keeping chart holders. Yes, if we keep the charts open or in our cupboards, it may happen that any other object may be placed on the top of it and creases may come. So it is better to keep the charts in the holders. And proper storage of chemicals, instruments in the laboratory. We have to store the chemicals, instruments of the science labs, language labs, geography labs in proper situation. And we have to take care of it. Repair if there is any faulties in any kind of instruments time to time. These are the cares we need to take for the TLMs. So we have came to the end of this presentation. By this beautiful quotation, I'm ending my session. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill, but the willing to learn is a choice. So we always have to keep the willingness of learning, because